I'm going to be sharing with you some basic techniques on how to retouch skin using Photoshop. And might I add, the information about to be shared is simply just one way of going about it, as there are hundreds if not thousands of ways you can carry out similar results. One last thing to note is the duration of getting from this to this varies between each image, as several factors play into the equation from the moment the idea was conjured up all the way to the final finished product. This is also known as your workflow, and I think we should probably save that topic for another video, but for now, let's get on to the tutorial. And just like that, we are here at the computer, ready to rock and roll. Let's go to open. Let's search for some files to work on, shall we? The moment I shot this image, I was living for it. I am still living for it an entire year later, and holy smokes, let's get started. So the first thing I'm gonna do is Command J to create a new layer. Then I'm gonna head over to this little spot healing brush tool. This works like magic. For expanding my brush size, I use a keystroke. Those will decrease and increase the size of your brush. So what I do here is I go into any of the spots that I think need to be taken out. Now, we're going to achieve a very natural look here. We're not going to distort or manipulate anything that is not who she is. I am just simply taking out any small little blemishes or large, but here she is no large blemishes. She has beautiful skin, which is perfect for what we're gonna be working on today to show you guys and give you the basics of how to achieve naturally flawless looking skin. So what I'm doing here is just tapping over these spots. I even click and drag as well on some of these spots that might be a little bit more than just within the radius of the circle here. And what's really cool about this tool is it is meant to be clicked and dragged. I love it. It makes things so much easier. It's a good time, let me tell you that much. Another cool thing about this tool is don't just limit yourself with on the face. Look at the entire image all together. Look at the clothes, the foreground, the background, and see if there's anything that's distracting or shouldn't even be there, like stray hairs, lint on the shirt, like I'm taking out right here. Everything within view that might be distracting, take it out. Perfect. After I am done going through and taking out all the blemishes and other distracting things that are not necessary for this image, I'm going to go to this little layer right here, Command J once again, creating another layer. So once I have created another layer, I'm going to select the both of them together and click Smart Object. So now that that has gotten into a smart object and became one, I'm going to create another layer, and I'm going to go over to Filter, Blur, and Surface Blur. I keep these settings the exact same on all of my images. You can do however much you want, but what I'm looking for here is basically just a fine finished blur. I'd say keeping the radius between, 25 and 75 threshold, somewhere around 100, 150. After the filter is done being rendered, I am going to go to this layer right here, create another layer by doing the keystroke Command J, dragging it up on top of this one, and going over to Filter, Other, and High Pass. All right, here we go. So what you're looking for here is you just want to make sure that you can just barely start to see the detail coming through. You don't want it to be crazy like this. No, nobody wants that. You just want it just so you can barely start to see a fine line of the detail coming through. You're gonna click OK, and then go to this little drop down menu over here, hit that hard light, perfect, and then we're gonna group these together by holding the key Command to highlight both at the same time, and then I'm going to do Command G to group those bad boys together. So the image is looking a little funky right now, and that's totally fine because we're gonna make some magic happen, and you're gonna hold down the key Alt Option and hover over this little camera hole, if you may. And while holding down the Alt Option key, you're gonna click that. That's gonna create a layer mask for us so that we can paint on the precise spots on the face that we want to have that airbrushed finished look. When you're going through doing this, do keep in mind that my opacity here is at 50%. Another thing to keep in mind as well when you're doing this is to make sure that your color swatch over here is at pure white. I'm just going to go over the skin relatively quickly here. We're gonna clean it up here a little bit. I just like to go over and paint the general areas that are going to need to be softer. I'm going to drop the opacity over here in the layers section just so that we can see that detail coming through slightly. And of course, this is all personal preference. You can use these tools and really just go hard in the editing. All right, and I do want to clean up the details a little bit that I may have gone over on some of these areas that I don't want to be blurred, like the eyebrows, especially the eyes. So once I've done that, I do like to bring the details and the features out just a little bit more for that drama. I am all about that drama. If you go anywhere on my Instagram page, you're gonna see, oh, okay, that girl likes mood. But here, what we have is very bright and airy, but we're gonna do some damage here, all right? When you create your new layer, you are going to hit this little folded page and it's gonna show up in the layer section right there. What I'm gonna do is come up to edit, fill, and 50% gray, mode normal, opacity 100%, boom, done, let's do it. Going over into the layers drop down menu over here, we're gonna do the soft light this time. Now after I've hit soft light, I'm gonna head on over to this little symbol right here. It kind of looks like a hand. This is the dodge and burn tool. The dodging and burning tool simply allow me to darken and lighten areas of the face that I want to accentuate. I'm just showing you a very natural look on this image, but play with it. I encourage you to play with it on your own images. A couple of the areas that I usually highlight on are darkening some of the features in the eyes, like the eyelashes, eyebrows, outer corners of the lips. Places that I'd highlight would be the bridge of the nose, some of the upper parts of the eyelid, the higher points of the cheekbones, and pretty much any higher point of the face. It's just like for those of you who contour or are makeup savvy, it's the same thing, just digitally. And like with all the other tools, do not limit yourself on just the face with dodging and burning. Play with the shadows and highlights and see what you can come up with. Real quick, I'm going to show you the before and after of the dodging and burning that we just did. It does make quite the difference, just enough, not changing her features whatsoever, just simply bringing out the details and highlighting the spots that I want the focus to be drawn into. Before I forget, I want to mention that I do keep my opacity at a relatively low level, right up here. I actually find it easier to control the outcome and the overall finished look if I'm building on it with many strokes rather than just one giant dark one. And of course, it's personal preference. You can adjust your opacity to however you think best suits your needs. I'm going to clean up a little bit of these edges here on lipstick just so that it's precise. And when I do that, I make a new layer. I'm going to use my clone stamp tool. I'm going to make sure the opacity is very low in percentage. And folks, I will have you note that the clone stamp tool does take a lot of finessing and lots of patience. There are so many times where I have to start all over again after I've done it a dozen times just to make sure that everything does match and look realistic. How I am taking different swatches from different areas so quick is I actually hold the Alt key down and click on the area that I want to select so that I can copy it into the area that is desired. Be sure to pay attention to your opacity for your brush, also the size of the brush and the area that you're working with. Always be grabbing from different areas that are similar to where you're going to be placing it. I am always clicking in different areas just so everything blends in together perfectly. I think it's pretty good. Let's see a before and after real quick, shall we? We're going to group all these together. It's just a quick way of doing it. So this is before and after. And just wanted to throw in a quick reminder. This is just one way of going about editing skin in Photoshop. There are so many different ways of going about this. These are just some of the basic tips and tricks that you can use to apply to your own images. And another thing, every image is completely different. This entire workflow that I just showed you is going to vary image to image. The lighting, the setting, the complexion, the positioning, everything plays into how long or short and how much editing you need to do with each image. Thank you for joining me on this lesson. I look forward to doing more. If you found value or enjoyment out of this video, subscribe. Until next time, have an awesome rest of your day.